Our group selected the book Reading Don't Fix No Chevys by Michael Smith and Jeffrey Wilhelm. Our group has 4 members, which are Summer Short, Catherine Hardy, Amanda Marshall, and Erica Furman. We're going to show you a quick video that addresses the main issue that's presented in the book. Good morning, boys and girls. Today we're going to be reading about Newton's laws of gravity. We're going to have a quiz in about 10 minutes, so make sure you pay attention.
We get 10 whole minutes, Miss Hardy?
10 minutes. Make sure you read the whole thing.
I love to read. Don't you just love to read?
Jackson, are you reading?
I'd rather be outside playing with friends.
Jackson, we're going to have a quiz. Make sure you pay attention.
I bet I could beat Ken today at the recess race.
Jackson, what is this you're reading? A video game magazine? This is not going to be on a quiz. Read.
I'd rather be doing anything than reading this.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, Miss Hardy, I'm finished. I learned so much. This was just wonderful.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, but you need to read it. We're going to have a quiz in about 1 more minute, so make sure you study.
I'll read it again.
Okay. Jackson, you need to be reading. So if you were using this video at a professional development opportunity or a workshop with teachers, you would ask them to think about the students in the video and at their tables to discuss if this has ever happened in your classroom. If you've ever had girls who are overly eager to succeed and get their assignments completed and the boys could really care less. Then you could ask them, these are some questions that would guide your discussions. Do they think it is more difficult to motivate male or female students to read? And then ask them to share any personal frustrations that they've had when they experience this in their classroom. Then this would also be a good time to share strategies and things that have worked in your classroom and maybe things that haven't worked for you and why you think they didn't work. This book was written primarily to provide you with a closer look at young males and their feelings and attitudes towards reading both inside and outside of school. But it also is being used to show teachers an insight into boys and how we can motivate them to read and want to do more reading inside and outside of school. Many of the findings that were shared in this book were results of multiple studies and action-based research. The researchers in this book used a lot of qualitative research through the form of interviews and surveys conducted with the students, which provided multiple data points. The concerns shared at the beginning of the book about boys and literacy were evident with the authors. The evidence of the boys' lack of literacy skills was consistent in all of the studies presented in the book. While all of the teachers have access to this data, the problem comes in because the data doesn't tell teachers how to fix this problem. We know that there's an issue with boys struggling to want to succeed in the classroom, but we're not exactly sure how to fix it. One of the problems also shared was that if the reading activities are perceived as feminized, then boys will go to great lengths to avoid them. This is where it's very important for teachers to know their students and know what engages them and motivates them in the classroom and know them on an individual level and how to get them engaged in their reading. The boys are also at a disadvantage because of the cultural attitudes and structures that promote a specific image. They have certain images that they have to withhold in their classrooms, and they don't want to look like a sissy or a girl because they enjoy reading in front of their other classmates.
What boys like to do and why they like to do it. That was a big study on what the authors really focused on, and they realized that most of the boys in their study gravitated toward things that they felt competent in, and that was that they were able to understand what the book was about and able to have the knowledge to read it. The other thing was that they felt control. They had the choice to be able to read what they wanted to based on their interests. And then also they really enjoyed books that gave them a challenge that weren't too difficult, but were difficult that they felt achievement after they read it. And they also really liked immediate feedback and engagement and also working with other people to make reading a social type of environment. And to address some of the concerns that Catherine talked about with these boys, the authors did the research, an action research project where they interviewed 45 different males, and they had 8 different profiles to give a wide range of what males could look at and see how they related to. And so I'll introduce you to these different profiles. The first one was a rapper, And the second one was a techie. He enjoyed fixing different things on computers. And the third one was a fix-it man. The fourth one was a reader, and the authors in this book made on purpose this student, this male, more feminized, where he enjoyed things in the theater and just as reading, so that the people, they thought that this would become more feminized. Also, the fifth one was a basketball player, and then there was a class clown. There was also an African American student who was not interested in reading due to he wasn't able to connect with the different texts and from his background. And also the last student was that he was not interested in reading because of the financial struggles that he had based on his home life. And so after all of these, they found out a lot of results which were really helpful into addressing some of these problems. One of these things is the huge difference between the ways that the males talked about school and the activities that they really enjoyed. They really valued the time that they spent doing the activities when they talked about them versus talking about the future and how they helped them. And so the overall theme was how when they talked about reading, it was all based on the future and how it would help them, but it wasn't something that they necessarily enjoyed. It was more sought as something that they actually had to do or for an end for something, or even in that, or a way to get to something else. It wasn't anything to do with the pleasure of reading. And then also, they also talked about the second thing was that they were surprised that it wasn't a feminine activity. As I mentioned before, the fourth reader was viewed that he would be more feminine. They predicted that the boys would not like that specific profile. However, all the boys noticed that the importance of reading, and they saw it as something positive. However, they said that they personally wouldn't enjoy it as a social activity. So all of this kind of goes to the fact that what are the teachers going to do to address this issue? Because they noticed from this study that they were able to see how important reading was. So how can they start to gear kids to make reading not seem so schoolish?
Some situations that promote literacy, there was 4 main focuses here. The first one were the fact that many of the boys didn't see a connection between what they were reading at school and to what they were reading at homes. They thought they were completely disconnected. They knew that the material at school they saw was boring and interesting. However, the material at home that they had, video game magazines or sports magazines, they found that to be interesting. They didn't see the connection in the reading itself. Also the 3 main factors, the 3 C's that Amanda spoke about in the previous slides: confidence, control, and challenge. They were once again a key factor in motivating the boys to read. They wanted to, of course, be successful in the reading. They wanted to have the control or the choice to pick what the topic was they were reading about. And they wanted the material to be somewhat challenging, not too easy for them. Teachers also have to show the boys why reading is important and how they can use it directly in the future. Making real-life experiences that they can connect to, that was very important for the classroom instruction. All the boys documented similar thoughts in the reading logs related to the social contract with teachers. This is going to be mentioned on the next slide. Within that contract, these 5 factors came up. All of the kids said that their teachers need to get to know them personally, know what they like, know what they dislike. They also went on to say that the teachers should care about me as an individual. Learn me as a personally, don't just relate me to my friends or to my work habits, but get to know me personally. Also, teachers should find some kind of topic to talk to about these students about their personal interests. Keep them on board with things. And also, a teacher should help me learn and work to make sure that I've learned. Don't just expect me to sit in your class and get through your lectures, but make sure I'm paying attention, because if you let me, then I'm going to definitely take advantage of that. Make sure that I'm learning and taking in this material. And also, have a classroom that's comfortable enough to ask questions. A teacher should be passionate, committed, work hard, and know his or her stuff. Just knowing the teacher is enthused about being at work and that they like what they do and they're intelligent in their field of study really helps the students, pick up and relate to things in the classroom. The texts the boys enjoy and why they enjoy them, there were 6 that focused here. The boys, of course, liked any kind of music-related text, computer literacy items, social readings, action-oriented, books that were somewhat edgy or humorous, of course. There were 3 basic reader orientations. The first one was the information driven. This was appropriate for learning from text situations where content is relevant. These students like to read just basically to learn, to pick up on new information all the time. The second was the story driven. These tend to emphasize the plot, character, and the events. They focus on the events in the story, how they affect the characters. They just read basically for their personal interest and just to get the stories out of it. And the third was the point driven reading. These move beyond the details of a story to involve the sharing and comparing of the values and the morals itself. They go to find the underlying meaning of these stories and go beyond that.
All right, everything that Catherine and Amanda and Summer have shared with you has been summarized in the implications for classroom practice. First, to identify and meet the students' needs through specific individual interests instead of putting students into categories. In other words, think about if you have a student who's interested in technology, and if so, shouldn't the text that you have for that student to be reading and engaging into, as well as the assignments, be geared towards technology if that's what they are interested in? Use would you rather questions to help you define your teaching goals, such as would you rather your student be reading every day through something like reading a newspaper, or would you rather them be reading every once in a while through a novel that they may read only occasionally? And these would you rather questions help to redefine our idea of literacy. Do we want our students to be reading what we find to be meaningful text, or would we rather them be reading every day? If we want them to be reading every day, then they should be reading something that is interesting to them. We need to engage our students in inquiry units that challenge them. These inquiry units are designed to help our students take ownership of their work, and it's designed to help them feel more confident with their work because of the fact that they are taking ownership of it. And choose shorter pieces of text. Shorter pieces of text are a little bit more interesting for the students that we've looked at through the surveys in this book. And with it being shorter, it's more entertaining for them, it's more interesting for them, and it has them reading more often. Some more classroom implications to keep in mind. Teachers have to know their students and their interests. This is one of the big things that the students that our survey from the book focused on stressed. They want their teachers to know them, not just who they are in the classroom. They want them to know that they care about them because they know what they do outside of the classroom. They want to know, aspects of their life that go beyond just what they may be bringing into the classroom with them. Immediate feedback is important. Extended texts do not provide this opportunity. And teachers must make reading seem less schoolish by making it personally purposeful, having it geared towards real context, shared learning goals with others, and that learning is immediately applied to real context. Going back to the example of the student with who was the techie, who liked technology, if he was given something that he was able to take ownership of, even if it was helping the teacher in the classroom with something that related to technology, this is gearing towards real context because this is what he might be able to use in the future with a job. And lastly, keep in mind, if boys are successful outside of school, is it the context or the kids to blame for their problems in school? In other words, if they are successful outside of school, is it what we are giving them in their classrooms? The text for them to be reading, the assignments for them to be engaging in and completing, that is causing them not to be successful in school. And life is a concert. School is the bus that takes you there. Do we as teachers want to keep our students off of the bus simply because we want everyone to be working on the same thing? If that's the case, then we need to think about a concert, and we need to think about how there are many different instruments that come together and create harmony, and our students are the same. There are many different instruments that can all be working on something differently and still come together to create harmony. And if you have any other questions, then the resources available here for our book that you may feel free to look through. Thank you.